Welcome everyone. In this episode, I would like us to create the questions, and in this case, as we'll be creating the questions, we will also be creating the answers at the same time. So let us go ahead and see how we can be able to implement this. The first thing I want us to do is to go to our controller. As we go to our controller, it is where we are going to load our question view. So in this case, in our question controller in the index function, I would just want to, above here, write use inertia. Use inertia, like that, such that we can be able to use the inertia render function. So inside the index function, I'm going to just write inertia return inertia render, and inside here we are going to pass in the value of what we want shown to our user. So in this case, I will just write questions because that is the view that I want us to, I would want us to show to the end user. And when we do it like this, we can be able to come and also define this controller method in our web.php. So I will scroll to routes and we will go to web.php. I will clean up some of this. And what I want us to do is I want to use, or in other words, import our controller here. So I'm going to write use app http controllers, and in this case question controller, and then we will go ahead and define a method that will be able to return the index function for us. So here I'm going to just have route, and this one is a get request, so route get, and we are going to have that, and I'll just say questions, and then we are going to include our controller and the method. So in this case I will write question controller class, and then the method is index, like that. Let me just extend this for once such that what I have here is entirely visible. So we have root get questions and then question controller class, and we are hitting the index method. So in this case, once we come to the question controller and we hit this index method, we will render a view that is in pages, which is called questions. And in this case, when we look at our application, there is nothing that we have under pages called questions. So I want to create another file, and in this case I'm going to call it questions.view, like that. And of course we will be able to have the script setup, and then obviously we are also going to have the template, like that. So of course I want to first of all import the layout file such that we can be able to use, and this is what we created in a previous tutorial, which will be able to assist us to have the header and footer set in the right places, and then we can be able to put our text in the body. So I'm going to write import layout, and I can select that, and maybe I can change this to at shared layout.view, but even the two dots are still okay. So then here we will have layout with opening and closing tags like that. So then I will go to our header.view and see what we have there. Yes, there is something that is done here that in our previous tutorial we had not done. I have put this one to / and the next link is quiz, and then we have a link that goes to questions. So the quiz one, if you click on it, it will give you a 404 because it's nothing that you've created on that. And also I believe also in the footer, let me see the footer. In the footer we have something similar. So the first link is just /, the next link is quiz, and then the third link is questions. If yours is not like this, in the href tag, in the link, in this case this link tag is brought about by Inertia, but initially this was an a tag, an anchor tag like that. So change this to quiz, change this to questions for both the header and the footer, such that when we run our application, so let me just open Chrome. So when we open our application and check what happens, then we are going to find out that that now our links will be leading us somewhere specific, not just a link for purposes of just being a link. So let me just give it a time it loads. Probably, yes, now we have it. So you can see when we click on quiz, it's giving us 404 not found. That is okay. And when we click on questions, it's actually bringing a page that looks exactly almost like the one that we have. And this is actually going to the index function of the question controller, and then it is fetching for us that page that is called quiz and questions. And if you just want to prove that that is the case, I just want to write inside here, inside the layout, my questions, and you will find that it is exactly so. You can see we have my questions. Now I want us to go ahead and be able to put a little bit more content on this page of ours, on this question page of ours. And what I would like us to do is to go to Bootstrap. So get bootstrap.com and get bootstrap.com. And in this case we are not going to forms. I want us to go to, probably we can be able to get a table, and this table will be the one that will be displaying our questions once we create them. But even though this tutorial we will only create the questions and probably we might not display them, it will depend with how everything goes. So I want to look for tables here, layout, forms, tables, yes, tables, and I would like to just copy one of the tables here. So even for you, you can be able to do the same. I like the first table, is not so bad. Let's just pick the first table, and I'll just pick the table with the table head and then the table body. I just need one row for the table body like that, because every other thing will be displayed from the other side. So you put it like this, but remember I need to do closing tag for the table body and then table body, and then I also need to do the closing tag for table. And I think now everything is okay. So if we are to check, we have a nice table here that has the first blast and handle. But in this case, we will be able to modify some of the things that are in this table. I just want to go ahead and add a bootstrap class. So in this case, under the class table, I just want to have table striped, and then we can check again and see what has happened. So we will refresh, and that is how it looks like. And then I would like, before we have the table, I want to just have a button here. So let me just put a button here, and this button I want to say create, just call it that. So when you check, we have a nice button here, and probably I can give it a class. As you can see, I intend to do very little styling on this code that I'm doing. I just want you to get the flow of whatever it is that you're doing with Inertia and with Vue. So now the class, I'm going to have btn, and then btn maybe success. I can call it that, such that it looks a little bit different from how our page is looking like. So this is a button that when we click, it is going to create for us our question. And now I want us to go ahead and be able to create a model that we will be able to use. So in this case, I will go to shared. Inside this shared folder, I want to create one more file, and I'm going to call it new question model, like that, .view. And then in this new question model.view, we are going to use teleport to create our models. So in this case, in Vue.js, there is a component that is actually built in Vue.js that is called teleport, and it can be able to teleport part of a component's template into a DOM that exists outside the DOM. So let us go ahead and see. There is an example that I'm looking for. So we will just scroll down. Of course, as an example, when you click on this, as you can see, we have a model here, but I'm looking at a more serious example. So inside here, we have you can combine teleport with the transition to create animated models. See example here, and this is the example that I want to pick. And so when we click here, it's actually showing our model with custom header, default body, and default footer, and that is exactly what I want. So let us go ahead and pick the code, and in this case I'm interested in the model, not in what we're having here in app.view. So I'll pick this one, and I'm going to copy everything exactly the way it is. So I will just highlight from here up until the end. Yes, with everything completely. We might modify a little bit, but let me just copy. And this one we are going to paste here, like that. And so this is our model, like that. So when as you can see, we are passing in props, and show the props that you're passing in is whether we show this model or not, and it's a boolean, so sort of like a yes or no. But inside the model, we have inside the transition, we have a transition. Inside the model, we have a transition, and then inside the transition, we are having a model. And so everything will be exactly like that. And this is where the default header is coming from, default body, and then default footer. But of course these ones are set to default. If we pass values from the other side, then these ones will be overridden. And then of course we have some styling down here, whatever it is that we have here. So basically this is how our model will look like, and I'm going to save this and we call it new question model. Now I want us to now go and use this new question model in questions. So I'm going to import it also here. So import new capital new question model from, in this case we can say shared at /shared, and then new question model dot view. And in this case I am just intending not to struggle so much to reinvent the wheel, because there's some code that is already there. We can just use it, and also for the purposes of shortening our tutorial video. Now I want us to be able to see how we can be able to launch this model. And what we are going to do, we are going to have inside the script again. Let me just clear this a little bit. So inside the script again, I want us to have a constant, and in this case we are going to call it show new question model. In this case we are going to use ref, and which we will need to import. So in this case at the onset the model is not shown, and inside here I am going to import ref from view. So import ref from view, like that. And after that, because now whatever it is that you're working on is a model, we somewhere where after our code, just below there, because this one now will not be shown when a user clicks on it, I would want us to put it below whatever it is that we have down there. So what we are going to say, we are going to have to use the model the same way we have been able to use the layout to include whatever data that we have put in. So down here I'm going to, after table, let me just create some space and scroll up. I'm going to use teleport, and then I have to say where the teleporting is done. So I'm going to say to body, like that, and then I will close this. So you have teleport and teleport, and then I'm going to also now include our model now. So our model is called new question model. So again I'm going to use this one. So we have new question model, like that, and I will close. And now inside this new question model we are going to pass several things. Now, the first thing, of course, is when clicked, we can be able to pass the props. In this case, as we saw in our model, there are props that we are supposed to pass that are called show. That is called show. And then that prop will have, if it is set to true, it will be able to show the model. If it is set to false, it will not be able to show the model. So let me just have it here. So we are going to say at show, we can say show new question model. In this case, we are referring to, just a minute, at show, we can say this is equals to show new question model. And we are referring to this value here, this one that we have set to false. So currently it's false. It says don't show this model, but when we click and it turns to true, then it will show the model. And in this case, it works like a toggle. So when you click on it, it shows. When you do not click on it, it doesn't show. And this click that we are talking about is brought about, we will actually be able to put the code in our button, such that when you click the button, it can be able to show the model. And when you click the button again, maybe when you click close, it can be able to close the button. So let me just put some code for when we close it. So when we close it, I want to use, just say destroy model. And we are going to set the two of them together. But before that, I want to go back to the button for creating a question. And in this case, I want to, when this button is clicked, we can have a create question model. We can have a method like that. So so here we can say this button, when it is clicked, we want to have a method on this button. So I can just write at click as a shortcut. In this case, in Vue.js, you are supposed to write v on click, but then just a shortcut you can write at click. So I want, when this button is clicked, there is something that happened. So at click, and I can say, I can give it a method that it will be able to call. So in this case, let me just call it create question, like that. So when we click there, you go to, or in other words, the method up here that is called create question is going to be activated. And let me have a function that displays that. So function create question, and in this case, we can be able to just say alert, just to check if our button has been clicked. Alert button, or create button clicked, like that. So you save it, and I want to go back and attempt to click that button. So when we click it, you can see it says create button clicked. So when this button is clicked, I want to turn this show new question model to true. Okay, so I am going to just do that. I'm going to do it like this because I'm using script setup. I'm just going to access it like this. So show new question model, and I'm going to say dot value, and I will equate it to true, like that. So I will save, and I just want us to check and see if there's any effect. So when we click it, as you can see, we have the model being displayed. So basically we have done three things, and as you can see, the model is not dismissible, so maybe not unless I refresh again. So when I click on it again, it is here, and it is not dismissible because we have not done something about destroying the model. And so when you check here, when you check what we have here, we have at close destroy model. So I need to set this method, and in this case this method will turn our model to false. So in this case, let me just set it up here. So we have show model and we have destroy model. So I want to have also another method here which I'm going to call destroy. So function destroy model, like that. And in this case we can just say show new question model, show new question model dot value is equals to false, just like that. And I want to attempt and see if it works. Let us attempt. So in this case, whatever values are being displayed are the default values, and when I click here it goes. I click here, the model comes up. I click here, it goes. But obviously we will be able to put some of our own data into this model. So let us go ahead and do a little bit more. And in this model, when you look at the new question model, it has several things. It has slots, and remember we did slots when we were looking at the layout. And so we have several slots. We have a slot called body, and we have another slot called footer, and we also have another slot called header in this case. So let us go ahead and just implement all of them. So inside the header, inside our questions.view, under whatever it is that we have down here for the model that we are using to create the question, I want us to pass in data for the header and also the footer and also the body. So this is what we are going to do. So we will use template. So we can say template, and the first one we can say it is the body. So I'll just say hash body, and this will be the template for the body. And of course we need a template, another one for, we need another one for the header. So I will have this, and I'm going to call it header. I believe that is how it has been, how it is stated in our file. And then we have footer, like that. So now inside here we can be able to pass the data for the header and the data for the body and the data for the footer. So for the header, I want us to have the question. So in this case, let me just use H5, and here we are going to say add new question, like that, and I will save it. And so when we refresh, we have, when we click here, we have add new question, and it is appearing as below there. Let me check header. What do we have here? We have the slot name is actually header. I do not know why it is mixing itself up, but probably it could be because we have not put in the others. Let me go ahead and just have the header, the footer, and the body. So inside the body, we can also be able to, so in questions, I actually put it in footer, sorry. I actually put it in footer, so let me just cut and place it in header. It was my mistake. So when we do that, if you come and refresh now, we have add new question. Okay, and then I would like to just do some styling. I will go to our new question model, the one that we created. So new question model, the one that is in shared, the file that we have created there. And I want to do something. I want to just change some CSS values here, and we have some CSS values for the header, or don't we? We have model container, we have width, padding, margin, yes, model header, and they have given it h3. I'm going to give it h5, and I would like it to be blue. Maybe let me just write here blue instead of the color that has been set. In this case, when we come back and check our model, now it's having a bluish color. Now I want us to have the body, and under the body, the first thing that I would like us to have is a question. So in this case, I want to just go to Bootstrap and check for a form. I will just click on overview of forms, and I will find, when you check here, you will find that we have a form. And this first form, I think it's just nice to do it for us. And I'll just copy just one thing. As you can see, I've copied. I will need to close this with the form tag. So let me copy this. And then I will go to my question.view, and under the body, I want to paste whatever it is that we have there. So I will paste this, what I have copied, and I can be able to just move it a little like that. And then I will go ahead and close the form with the closing form tag. So when we go back to our model, as you can see, we have an input, but I would like to sort of modify this form. I want it to be a little bit bigger than the way it is appearing, for purposes of us being able to have a bigger space. So I'm going to change the width in our CSS. So you go to new question model, so you click here and click on new question model, and I want us to change something about the width. Let me probably change it to 500, like that, 500 pixels, so you can see the model is a little bit extended. And then I want to delete this thing of we will never share your email with anyone. I do not see if it serves any purpose, so let me just delete this. I delete that, and then on top of that, I want to change the label. So in this case, the label, we are going to call it new question, or maybe we can just call it question. I can remove this and just call it question. And so we have the question being inquired of us. And then I would like us also to do something, because the idea that I want us to implement, I want us to create the questions and the corresponding answers all at once. So we will not only have the question, but we will also have the answers. And these answers, I actually want to have them as a table. So I will just go back to Bootstrap and look for a table, just one of the tables that exist here, and maybe can be able to copy this one again, this a similar table that like the one that we had. Now just copy one row like that, and I'm going to paste this one still on our form. I can even paste it before we close the form, but this form tag actually is a little bit inconsequential. It will not be, we will not be submitting the form using it, so we can have it like that. So I'm going to close the body, and I'm also going to close the table. And so we are going to have just two columns. Maybe we can have the hash for the question, and then we can have the answers. And then I also need to know from the person inputting whether the answer is correct. And maybe I can have a question mark to just ask if it is correct. And I do not need any other thing, so these others, this other column here doesn't have any value. And inside our table data here, of course, we will have the value of the question, maybe the question ID or something of that sort. And then here I want us to have an input, and so I will just copy an input like the one we have here, this input here. I just copy it and paste it here. So I will paste it under table body. For the second, is it, let me just undo. For this is the first one, which will be having the ID, and then we have this one that I want us to have the answer. So this one is going to be an input, and of course the input is not going to be email, the input is going to be text like that. And I also want to have a radio button here. So I'm going to just have input, you can say type radio like that. And I think for now maybe we can just check and see how it looks like, but of course I will delete this last one. So we have, for the questions, we just have one input that somebody will type in the question in this input here, and then for the answers we have a table header with 3 headings, hash for maybe the question ID, and then answers, and then whether it's correct or not. So we will have the radio button being checked only once, and then that will be it. So let me just check our form and see how it looks like. Yes, almost there. And even though there is something that I have deleted or I have not saved, so if I save, a hot reload will be done and everything will be like that. So we will type in our question, and I want us to type in our answer, and then we will have a button here which will be next. So when we click next, another input will be created here for us to fill in the next answer and the next answer and the next answer. And until we reach 4 answers, the submit button will not be available for us. So let us just go ahead and have 2 buttons here. And these buttons, I want one of them to be submit, and the other one to be add answer, and then the other one I want it to be destroy modal, so in other words close. So we are going to have 3 buttons, and let me just put the buttons, and I will put 2 of them first, and these ones I'm going to put in the footer, in the template footer. So here I'm going to have button like that. The first one we are going to call it close, and then we are going to have another button called submit, call it submit. And then of course we have another button which I want us to just, I do not know what we will do about it, but I want it to be sort of like a plus sign, and then we can have it like that. So maybe you may just call it maybe a span or something, span. And in this case I can maybe give it, make it bigger. So maybe I can give it h3, and I can just have plus like that. In the final application, I actually used bootstrap icons, and we used the float start. I mean bi plus, the bootstrap icon, but this one is not so bad. So we have close submit. The submit one, maybe we can give it a class of btn, and then btn success. And then this close one, I want it to be red in color, so I give it a class of btn hyphen danger, like that. And so as you can see, we have several buttons here, and I believe this is all that we will be doing about our form. So let us give some functionality to our form, and I want us to go and create several things. And the first thing I want us to create is, in this case for the question, I will just be saving it as a constant, so using ref. So in this case I'm just going to have up here, let me just do that. Actually it is possible to do that. So here, maybe above here, I can say const, let us call it created question, and we are going to set, to use ref and set its value for now to null, because now the question has not been created. And in our model, I'm going to just, inside here where we have the question for the input, so input question, of course the type here is going to be text, and I'm just going to have it as, we are going to have it as so in this case we will have it as a v model. So in this case we can say v model. I'm going to set it to created question, like that. So created question, and yes, it is possible to update a value directly to the ref, and it is also usually reactive. So let us see, when we click here we have that. So when I type in, if we check using view dev tools, I do not know if I've installed view dev tools in this machine. Let me go to inspect, and we will go to, yeah, there's nothing. So let me see if I can be able to install view JS dev tools. It's a Chrome extension, so you open it, and then we're going to add it to Chrome such that it can assist us to just check some of the things that we are doing in our form. But as we continue doing that, I also want us to also have the new answers. So in this case we have question. I also want us to have new answers, so I will set it here, const new answers, and we are also going to use ref, and we will set it to an empty array like that. So new answers, we have created question and you have new answers, and so we are going to reference it here. And the first thing maybe I want to do, I want to hide some of the buttons here. So for example, this one that asks us to add, and I will hide it. I can just say vif. So here I can say vif new answers. We are accessing whatever it is that you have created inside there. So new answers, it's supposed to be capital for A dot length. So in this case we are checking how many answers are there. So if new answers dot length, or in other words the number of answers, is less than 4, we will be able to see that plus sign. So less than 4. In this case I am sort of like insisting on a user being able to create a maximum of 4 questions. Once the 4 questions are created, once they click 4 times, then this plus sign will not be visible. And then for submit, I also want to put something similar. I can just say vif new answers dot length is let me say greater than 3. So in other words, if we have 3 values in our answers array, then we can be able to show this button. And by virtue of saying that, if we go back and check, you will find that actually if we click on this one, now the submit button is not there. So we have the close button and we have the other button, and this close button again is not functioning. I do not know what I have messed up. So we have not given it anything. So in this case we can give it that when that button is clicked, we destroy the model. So in this case I can just put at click. Remember what we did previously? Yes, at click destroy model, like that. So when we go back and refresh and refresh, so if we are able to refresh and we click on the model and we click close, it's now able to be closed. Remember, it is not as if I had not said it previously. I had said it previously, but it was for the default. The default is these are values that are in the in our model new question model file. So those ones are the default. So if I did not put my custom values here, then the button will function normally. But in this case I have now to, because I've put some custom information, then I have to also customize the button. So I think that is good enough. So I would like to just check using Chrome DevTools and just check the question. And so in this case we have I want us to go to view. Yes, nice. And now we have inertia and we have question, and as you can see we have created question is null. So let me type something inside here. As you can see, something is being typed. That one is nice. And then the answers are not there and the show modal has been set to active. We also see that view is passing errors for us to be able to use, and we also have setup. And here under setup, we can be able to find that there are other things which we can be able to have for our consumption. Now, I want us to go ahead and see how we can be able to add an answer. And the first thing I want us to do, because we will be giving these answers an ID just temporarily, because in our database, the database will be giving the questions and answers IDs, because now that one is the Laravel backend. But here we will just do a few things. I want us to temporarily give the answers an ID, and then we will go ahead and create those answers. So we can just here, I can say let answer ID be 1, so sort of like the default one. So for whenever we are creating a new question, the answer ID will be set to 1, and then we can be able to increment as somebody continues adding the answers. And then in our answers array, I want us to have several things. So I do not know. Let me just create another method here that will be able to create for us the answers. And here, what I'm going to have a function that is going to enable us to add answers. So function add answer, add maybe new answer, add new answer, like that. And when we click on the button, that the plus button that we are having there, I want us to create a new answer. So in this case, we are going to just set it here. So I'm going to say constant new answer, and in this case we are going to say is equals to, we are going to have an object. And remember, these answers, we are setting them exactly the way we set our questions in the database, because in our answers we had, of course, you will have the ID, the answer ID. And in this case, this one is what I want us to increment. So I will say answer ID, the one that we have set here, because it's something that we have set here as 1. So this answer ID, I want us to increment it. So whenever we click on that button, we will be incrementing the answer ID. So you begin with it being 1, and then after that, it will be incrementing to 2, 3, like that. Okay, then we will also have the answer. So in this case, the typed in answer. And this one, I want us to set it to null, because we'll be creating the input, and then after that typing in something, and then submitting. And then we want to have also the correct answer. Like that, correct answer. And in this case, I'm setting all answers to false. So in this case, temporarily, not unless we click on the button that sets a question to be correct, the radio button, all the answers are going to be set to null by default. And then, so after that, we are now going to push the answers into our new answers array. So we are going to say new answers. Remember, new answers, we have created a ref here that has our new answers. So for the new answers, we are going to say new answers dot value. That will enable us to access this value here. And then we are going to say dot push. So in this case, we are just adding whatever it is that we have here to that array. So I will say we are calling this constant new answer like that. So that is what we are going to push there. So I'll just copy and paste here. So we will be so we will be basically creating a new answer and then pushing into our new answers array like that. So as you can see, there is a difference in one of them is singular and the other one is plural. Now I want to go to our the end of our file where we are having the answers down here, and when now we click this button called this, we created a plus button somewhere. Yes, we created a plus button somewhere. Yes, this one. So we are going to just say at click, and then we will say add new answer. So here I will just put it maybe here in the span. I can say at click like that, and we can say add new answer. So in other words, when it is clicked, you hit this method which is called add new answer, and in this method we create a new value in the arrays table in this answers, new answers array, and then now once that value is created there, we can be able to type in the answer, and we can be able to maybe set it to be correct or wrong, or maybe just do whatever it is that we want to do. So let us attempt and see what happens. Now for the answers now, because now we are having the table row, I want us now to be able to display the various answers that you'll be having. So in this case, we are going to loop through the answers. Currently there is nothing in our new answers, but we can just say v4, and this one is a view directive that enables us to loop through values that are repeating. So in this case, I want to just say answer and index, and we are checking for this answer in the array is called new answers. This one here that we have here, this one that we have here, this one. So we'll be checking for new answers here. So that is where I am checking. I'm a little bit poor with how I'm naming my variables, but just bear with me. So I'm going to say new answers like that, and so we will be looping through, and then this input here is for an answer. So in this case here, I can say v model. Of course, this one we are calling it an answer, but inside this answer we also have a value called answer, as you can see. So we have a value called answer. So because of that, I'm going to have it as answer, and then inside the general answer I will also have a variable called answer like that. So that is the value of the typed in text for that answer. And then of course for the radio, we are going to do several things about this radio button. But before we do something about the radio, I want us to just first of all check and see if up until where we have reached our code is working or not. So let me refresh. Do I have errors in the console? No. So when we click here, as you can see, this is and I click on this button, you can see it's creating a value for the first answer, and when I click the second answer, and when I click the third answer, and when I click the fourth answer, and then that button disappears, the submit button appears. That is lovely. Now I would like to do something about this radio button, and I'm going to do two things, or maybe more. I want to check if this radio button is checked. As you can see, we will check this radio button if, as you can see here, we are setting the correct answer to 0. But we will check this radio button if the correct answer is 1, so that we can have a radio button already checked. So if a user clicks and says this is the correct answer, then the radio button should change from 0 to 1. But obviously, as you can see, even before, a user can be allowed to create all the answers with wrong answers, but one of them now can be able to be set afterwards. Even after putting the 4 answers, they can be able to select and say which one is the correct answer. So I'm going to just check. So in this case, we can say, we can bind checked, or in other words, we can dynamically check that button, and we can say answer, and answer is what we are using here, is this one here. But inside answer, you find that we have correct answer. So I will say answer.correct answer, and we will be checking if this answer is 1. So if the answer is 1, then this button will automatically be checked. In other words, the radio button will automatically be checked. And then I want to give the radio button a class. So we have just said it's a radio button, and that is it. I want to give it a class. And the class that I'm going to give it is a form check input. Form check input. That is just a bootstrap class. Form check input, like that. And then I also want this button to be checked for changes. So if it changes, then we can be able to go and set in our new answers array, we can go and set that answer to be that different choice, either 0 or 1. So if it was a correct answer and we have checked another correct answer, then this one will be changed to be, it will be changed to be wrong or something of that sort. So let me just type in, and in this case we can bind the value. So value, in this case we can say answer.id. So you bind the ID of the answer, and then we can handle the change now. I'm going to say at change. So when it is changed, I want us to have a method, and so we can call this method handle radio toggle, like that, and I will pass in the ID of that specific answer. In this case, I cannot just do ID, I will do answer.id, answer.id, fully like that, answer.id, that way. And so when we click on it, it is going to go to a method that is called handle radio toggle, and then it will be passing in the ID of the specific answer, that. So we will go ahead and create this method. I'm having so many methods, and yet I have not finished with everything that this questions page will be doing. But let us just go ahead and do it, because now. So we will go here and create another method. So in this case, I'm going to create a function here, function, and then I paste that. And of course, we are passing the ID in this sort of method, and as we pass the ID, we will now be able to do something about it afterwards. So inside this method that we are calling handle radio toggle, I want us to have the answer ID. I mean, the variable that we passed actually is just the answer ID. And I want us to also be able to check an answer that has been selected. So we will do two things. We will check for an answer, and then we will check whether this answer has been selected. So the first thing I want us to do, once we have it like that, I want us to set, once an answer is clicked on, we can select it, we can set it as the selected answer. So let me just have that. So selected answer, and we are going to set it in a ref. So selected answer dot value, like that, is equals to this answer ID that you're passing here, or maybe we can call it ID, whatever it is that you want to write here. So let me just call it answer ID. Do we have any other thing that we are calling it like that in our application? So answer ID. Do we have something else that we are calling it that? Answer ID. Let me change it. Maybe just call it ID. Let us just call it ID like that, because it is the one that we are passing in. And so I need to create selected answer. Maybe I can write this one as capital and just copy it and put it here, and we will have a selected answer as a constant. So const selected answer to be equals to null in this case. Selected answer, we can be able to set it as a null like this. Do you use ref? And inside here I'm going to write null like that. So then, and then after that, we are going to do a little bit more. Just apart from selecting and saying that this is the answer, I'm also going to check and be able to modify the ID of our answer. So in this case, I'm going to say if we are going to just check new answers, dot value, and we will loop through all the new answers for each. for each answer, you can use an arrow function, and then we can say if answer dot id is equals to id. So we are checking for the answers that have been created, and we are checking if one of the answers in that array is equal to the id that you're passing here. Then we will check where we will check and say answer dot correct answer dot correct answer, whether it is 1, so if it is 1, we will leave it like that. And in this case, you can see we are checking the radio button. So in this case, when we check the radio button, we are saying this is the correct answer. So we will just check if the answer is 1, we will leave it like that. Otherwise, if it is not, we will do what? We will set it to false. So answer dot correct answer is equals to 0. So in other words, what it will be doing when we click on it, if the answer is correct, it will set it to wrong. If the answer is wrong, it will set it to correct. Something of that sort. That is what this sort of like function will be doing. So let me just try and show you what we have in this case. And of course we have View Dev Tools open. Let me just open it here, and then we see. So when I click create, of course for the question we can be able to type it in. We can be able to type in our question, and then when we click here we will have answers, and we can be able to type in our answers now like that. I do not know why View Dev Tools is not opening right now, but like that. Let me just check again. It is not opening. I want to just change the ID because now we'll be setting IDs for this one. So let me just go to again the place where we're having our values, and since we are having this row as 1 here, I just want to pass the answer ID. So I will just say answer dot ID like that, and I think that will just be fine. So again, when we refresh, let me just check answer ID. So we are checking if we have correct answers and so on and so forth. Let me just refresh, see what we have. So when we say create, and we have our question, we are creating our answers. It is not giving us the ID. Let me just check for answer. Oh, answer in answers. Let me check answer dot ID. Answer dot ID. I think I do not know why it is not displaying that. Our view form is actually on the table row. Let me just check. Let me just check why it's not displaying that. Oh, it's supposed to be double curly braces. I'm using one like that. Is that so? Yes, now it is displaying. So when I click again, we are having ID of 2, ID of 3, id of 4 like that. So as we create our answers, but I wanted to just check with View DevTools and see, even though it is not displaying for now. Let me refresh again and open it again, because I want to just inspect and see that everything is fine. So we open View DevTools again, and now it is opening. So I want us to again click on create. So we have our question, as you can see it's being typed, and then the answer. When I click the first answer, as you can see, we have an array that has values, and then we can check to be correct. You see, if it is correct, I want us to just check our object and see that our correct answer has actually been set to 1. And if we uncheck it, it is not doing anything for now. Let me add another question such that we'll be changing from one question to another. So if we have a question like that, I mean an answer like that, now you see it's changing. So from one value to another. Yes, I think that one is nice. And then I believe we are almost there. Now, because we have been able to add questions and answers, I think we can go ahead and see how we can be able to submit this form of ours. And then once we are able to submit, then it will be fine. But there are checks that we are supposed to perform before we submit this form. And the checks that we're supposed to perform, we will check for whether we have 4 answers, because it is possible you have 4 inputs, but at the time of that, the 4th input, probably it is not complete, and maybe also this question has not been set, it is null. So I want us to work on submit. So I will go to our form, and then we can be able to create a method that will be able to work when we submit, because we have not been able to do that. So I'm going to say at click, and we are going to submit our question. Like that. So if I will be able to create another method here, and that method now will be submit. So function submit question, like that, and I want to just alert submitting. But as you can remember, this submit button will not be visible if we have not set any questions. So create, and we will type in our question, and then we will type in our answers. If you do not have the answers, you cannot be able to submit. And in this case, you at least have the 4 spaces. So maybe you just click and have the spaces, and then have the submit button. So if you click, it says submit, but you see I've not filled in some of the inputs. So you need to have methods that will be able to check whether the question has a value and whether the answers are 4. Okay? Because whether the question is correct or not, we can be able also to set it when we will be editing. So let us go ahead and see what we can be able to have in submit. So inside our submit function, we are going to have several methods, and the methods that we are going to have, we will do several checks. So here, let me just delete this one. And now in our submit question, I want to check if the question is empty. So I'm going to just say if and we are checking the negative. So we called it what? We called it new question, or what did we call it? Created question. This one here, created question. So if created question dot value, so in this case we are saying if it is empty, we say what? We say, or we return an error, and we say alert, and say question cannot be empty. Like that, question cannot be empty. And we will also return false, such that that process will not continue. Now, so when I again open, or maybe refresh and open my model again and try to submit, obviously I need 4 answers. So you click here, and again, and again, and again, and then the submit button comes, and I click that one. Now you see it says question cannot be empty, and I think that one is good. I also want to check whether our answers are valid. So we are going to do 2 things. We are going to count the answers, and we are also going to check if those answers are valid. So I'm going to create 2 methods, one for counting the answers, the other one for validating the answers. In this case, just checking if the answers are not empty, and if the answers are not less than 4. So in this case, we can have, we just have 2 methods just to maybe make the code in submit question. So let me maybe put that method here before we submit. Function validate answers, and we are going to have what? We are going to check, so using a for loop. So for const answer in, so you're going to check answers for const answers of new answers, and remember the new answers is what we have here. So the values that we have here, that is what we are checking, and we are checking the value, and so as we loop through, we are going to check if answer dot answer, let me remove the quotation marks, if answer dot answer, and we are just checking whether, so dot trim is equivalent to null. In this case, it doesn't have a value, and I think is something that I have by mistake here. Yes, that trim like that is equals to null. So this function, you check if our answers, if we have an answer that is empty. So in this case, there's nothing that has been typed, and here we are return false, like that. And then on top of that, I also want us to check something else. So we will check if it is empty, we return false, and else if everything is okay, we will return true. Return true. So in this case, we are saying that it has passed the test. I also want another method. So in this case, you cannot be able to submit an answer that is empty, and maybe okay, because we will be checking these methods afterwards, let me just leave it like that. And then let us also check for the count of answers. So function answer count, because we will also be checking how many questions are there. And we will just do something that we have done elsewhere. So we are just going to say if new answers dot length is less than 4, and here so in this case we are checking if the answers, the answer objects are 4 or less. So if they are 4, then it means somebody has answered 3 questions or has typed in 3 questions, and the fourth one maybe is blank. So that one we will be able to, or maybe they did not even create the fourth question, they just submitted. So that one we'll be able to bring an error. So in this case we can alert 4 answers, required to submit. But this check will not be so much troublesome for us, because at the end of everything we will be actually having 4 answers, because for the submit button will not be able to be shown otherwise. Okay, else if, and I'm really wondering, I think the scenario with which I put this check is catered for elsewhere, but I just have it. So we are saying if the answers are 4, we will return true. Return true, like that. And I will save this. So in our, and then of course else, if there is any other thing that I've not captured, even that one, let it return false. Now I want to also have that method here, so I'm going to check as we submit. I'm also going to check whether those 2 things that we have are true. So I'm going to have if we had the first check was validate answers. So if it is not okay, and because it is a method, we are going to have it like that, and it's returning a boolean, and we are combining 2 conditions, answers, answer count. Is it answer count? Yes, that is what I have typed. So if these 2 are false, we can just tell this person that they need to fill all the inputs. So alert fill all the inputs, before submitting, like that. And then of course, as we warn them like that, we will also return false, such that it does not submit our form. Now if all the checks are okay, then we are ready to submit our form. And I want us to now just post this form, so we are going to do router dot post, and we are going to post these two questions to questions / questions, and then we are going to pass in our question, and in this case we are referring to created question dot value, where we were storing our question. Remember, we were having our question stored in this ref here, and then the answers are stored in new answers. So I want us to submit the question and answers at once, and we will perform saving them also at once. So answers, and in this case we are going to say new answers, because that is the place where we have stored them, dot value, like that. So obviously when we fill in the values and click submit, it is going to submit our values. So let me refresh and click on create, and maybe fail to type in a question. Obviously there is nothing wrong, and type in the first answer, and all the other answers I leave them like that, and attempt to submit. It says question cannot be empty, and I type in the question with the answers, some of them being empty, and I click and it says fill all inputs before submitting. So then I'm forced to type in all the other answers like that, and then once I submit, now you can see the loader is going, but of course you're going to get an error because we have not set up anything for a post method in our values. So let us go ahead and do that. So I will go to controllers. No, before I go to controllers, I will go to web.php, and I'm going to set a method here, and I'm going to call it route post, and we are going to have again the same thing, questions, and then we are going to pass in the question controller like that, question controller class, and then now the method that is being hit is store, like that, and then I will save this. Obviously we will have a problem because these routes need to be named routes for us to be able to perform redirects, but I will leave it like that. When we encounter that error, I'll be able to correct it for purposes of understanding. Okay, now now we have been able to hit store, and I just want to go to our controller method for storing. I just want to here in the store method, I want to just return request all, like that. And so when I again create maybe a question, so you go and create a question here, I will just typing some gibberish because I do not have the intention of saving, and then the other one, so the 4 inputs, so I'm typing in all the gibberish that exists, and then I will select my correct answer, one of them, and if I change, as you can see there, the radio button changes to whatever it is that I'm setting to be correct. When I submit now, you can see we are getting a response from our controller that is telling us the answers. We have an ID, all those things, and all those things, and all those things as we continue like that. And then also for the questions, the question, am I seeing the question here? Because you can just see the answers. The answers only are the ones being submitted. There is a problem somewhere. We are saying the question is created question dot, oh, create question. It is, I think, is it created? Yes, created question. I think that's the reason why it was not submitting, because I just wrote create question. Okay, let me check again if that error has solved and we are submitting the question and answers at the same time. So we have question and click here, we have first answer. Let me click 4 times like that, and you can type in some gibberish of an answer like that, and then when I submit, nice, we also have the question and we have the answers. I think that one is perfect. Now I want us to go ahead and see whether we can be able to save these questions in our database. So that is the next thing that I would like us to do. I do not know if the video has become too long. Probably I can maybe stop there, and then in our next episode we will be saving this question and answer in the database. So allow me to stop there because the video has become extremely too long. And if there is any value that this tutorial is bringing to you, you can be able to comment below and just tell me that you're following and maybe you're getting it, or it's a challenge, and so on and so forth. We can see how we can assist each other. Eventually, once I'm done with this tutorial, I will be able to upload it to the code to GitHub, so you can be able to check and just see whether you can be able to correct yourself. Now I would want to just save this and stop because now the video is too long. Thank you very much.